Da, 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 da. Cool, let me set my screen up. All right. So, hey Lucy. All right, so this will be stuff that a lot of you, oh, that's not a good setup, a lot of you will have done with me before. So there'll be some repetition, and as always, I'll be saying some of the same things that I always say, but I'm going to say them again. So yeah, we're focusing on the spine. So a few things to think about. Firstly, the pelvis. An adjustment of the pelvis is the single biggest adjustment you can make to your body. So if you shift your pelvis, it will have an effect on what's happening at the femurs, the thigh bones, and it will also have an effect on the shape of the spine. So there'll be times when, although we're talking to the spine itself, we want to bring some awareness into the pelvic region. That's always going to be useful. The spine itself, we want to kind of, whether we're a visual person or whether it's just kind of like a feeling of, getting a sense that the spine is not one straight line. It's not fixed, it's not rigid, we don't want it to be too tense, but instead getting that sense of the vertebrae, all these individual pieces with a little bit of daylight in between each one, connected by a central column, so that they have space and room to kind of move and flex and bend and circle and rotate and all of those things. Yeah, I guess I'll talk more as we go. So if you're working with any kind of, if your back or your spine is a part of you that maybe you don't have such a positive relationship with, or it's feeling a bit stiff or a bit sore at the moment, then also remember you've got that sliding scale. So you could do absolutely nothing. You could put in so much effort that you feel like you're going to die. And then you've got all that space in the middle. So you never have to do anything, and you definitely never have to do everything 150%. So just be mindful as to how things are feeling for you. All right, so find a comfortable seat, whatever that is for you. And the guideline, I guess, that I want to reiterate to you is that we want to find a position where the low body is comfortable, so the pelvis is just kind of steady, stable. And if the pelvis is stable, then hopefully the spine can just kind of rise up with a sense of ease. So we're not having to grip or tense or hold the spine upright, but there's a sense of it being more restful. Again, a sense of maintaining the natural curves of the spine. Just have a little moment to see if you can release any effort, any tension, maybe relaxing slightly your abdominals, or releasing your jaw, letting the shoulders become heavy, whatever it might be. Does the body feel that it is able to rest in this seat that you've chosen? And if not, maybe just exploring a little bit, seeing if you can make a little change. Does that make it feel easier? Or does that feel like actually you're working harder? But once you're happy, once you're settled, starting to bring more attention to your breathing, just breathing in a way that feels comfortable for you, whatever that might be. Seeing if we can just notice, pay attention to our breath. Perhaps noticing or acknowledging whether you are breathing in a particular way, whether you are making an effort to manipulate or control the breath. I feel like those words, manipulate and control, can have a slightly negative connotation, but in this sense, we just mean basically doing a particular thing, breathing in a particular way. You're maybe noticing where you feel your breath. last week we were focused more on that kind of lateral diaphragmatic breath. Do you feel that motion now? Or perhaps you're breathing lower down into your belly. Then in yoga, the spine is seen as this conductor of energy. So we also want to see if we can perhaps connect to a sense of flow with the spine itself. So you're going to take your attention down to the tip of your tailbone, the very bottom of your spine, and as you breathe in, drawing that breath, drawing energy up through the spine towards the crown of the head. And as you let go of that breath, it's just softening back down towards the tailbone. So the in-breath draws breath, energy from base of the spine to crown of the head, and the out-breath allows it to release, soften, melt back down again. We still want a sense of the natural curves of the spine. I think we touched briefly last week on the difference between taking breath and receiving breath. The same thing here, we're not pulling that breath up, forcing it up, which might create tension or more of a kind of a straight spine. There's a softness, again, a flow and ease where possible. Continue to breathe in that way, but just again, take a second to check if you are holding on to any tension, if you kind of picked any up. Again, softening your brow, your jaw, your shoulders. And seeing if you can rest into your seat a little more. And then letting go of that connection or that visualization of the spine and just taking a moment to begin to move your neck any way you like. Just kind of start warming up the spine. And we'll sort of move from top to bottom, warming it up gently, gradually. As you move your neck, do you get any other little sensations anywhere else on the body? Or do you feel it anywhere else in the spine? And that might mean that you're listening out, looking out for tiny little whispers of sensation and increasing your awareness, tuning into some of the subtleties that might be going on. And bringing the head back to center. We're going to start to move the ribs. So I want you to imagine that you've got a thread that's passing through sort of the middle of the rib cage from right side to left. And if you're, again, you might find it helpful to kind of bring your hand to this area. But you've got this thread that's been passed through you, and someone's going to take hold of one side and just give it a little bit of a pull. It's going to shift your rib cage over to one side. And then you'll find the other side of that thread, and someone's going to give it a little pull. It's going to take you over the other side. It might be quite a small movement. So you're going to be shifting one side to the other. If it helps, again, to touch the part of the ribs that we want to lead the movement from, you can go ahead and do that. Or you might want to think you've got the thread maybe in front of you, want to be creating that pulling action, or you might be quite comfortable to just go with it. So there's this kind of rippling, snaking that we're trying to move towards. I'm going to keep moving from the rib cage. We're going to start to take it into circles. So pressing the spine, pressing the chest rather forwards, round to one side, towards the back, the other side. Doesn't matter which direction you're going, because we're going to try and go in both directions. Try and keep the jaw relaxed. Doesn't matter if the circles are big or small. Doesn't matter if you're making a circle or not. Just bring a little bit of attention in. Working towards a circular action. Try and make sure the shoulders stay soft. When you're ready, just taking a moment to change direction. If it feels a little bit scrunchy, compressed in the low back, then just keep a gentle kind of in and up with the abdominals, drawing belly button into spine, lightly up towards chin. So again, the vertebrae are not kind of sinking down onto each other, but we're creating a little bit of space if that's needed. If it's comfortable for you to just be kind of a bit more relaxed, a bit less, I want to say a bit less aware, then just keep it chilled. Gradually bringing the spine back to stillness. Then I want you to imagine that we're going to just take the attention a little bit lower, just below the rib cage. We want to keep the low back quite stable. And then we're going to make more of a kind of a circling, we just did circling, more of a flexing, bending action. So you take a little side bend over to one side. You're going to need the abdominals to draw in as you round the spine forwards. Over to the other side. And then a little kind of high release or back bend-ish, depending on how warm you are, in the back of that circle. The pelvis and the lumbar spine stay fairly secure, fairly stable. You will need the abdominals to be supporting, to be switching on just a little bit. Changing direction. Again, we want to be kind of articulating, flexing, bending the spine, not moving from the hips and keeping the spine in a straight line. Starting to come back to stillness, gradually back to center. Again, just pause, reconnect to your breath. And you're still going to keep that kind of up and downwards motion of the breath. So as you breathe in, being drawn up from the tailbone to the crown of the head, maybe a little bit of gentle lift in the spine. And as you breathe out, the breath is released. And you take maybe a ripple or a fold or a release of the spine. As you breathe in, and stacking vertebrae on top of vertebrae, gently extending, lifting, lengthening the spine. And as you exhale, again, a softening, a rippling, a folding. It might be a really big action. It might be a very small action. You can use the hands on the thighs or on the floor to help bring a little bit of extra support if you want it. Where else will you get support from if you need it? Abdominals here, particularly on that kind of lifting, that rolling, rippling up. Maybe picturing in your mind's eye the actions or the shape and the movements that your spine is making, again, this collection of pieces that are connected as opposed to one rigid structure. When you're ready, finding again a little bit of stillness, maybe closing your eyes, just Scanning through, checking in with the spine, with the rest of the body. Again, looking for this ease, this kind of restful seat. And then just giving the shoulders a few rolls, just to kind of loosen them up a little bit. And when you're ready from there, you're going to roll down to lie on your back. So take whatever time you need before you make your way down. I've got pins and needles. Okay, once you are, oh Lord, once you're down on your back, just bring the knees in towards the chest. Have a little moment there. So you've got this forward fold happening at the hips, bit of extra length at the low back, maybe circling the ankles, maybe taking the knees. Some nice big circles starting to warm into the hips. And again, when you're ready, no rush, but you'll bring the feet down to rest on the mat. So feet planted, knees pointing up towards the ceiling, and planting the feet in a position where it feels like it's quite easy for you to lift the hips. And we're still just warming the body up, so not necessarily massive back bend, making sure the feet are firm into the floor. And listening out, looking out for the sensations that you meet as the hips rise. Can you find any more space, any more ease? And recognizing that finding or creating ease in your body might come by switching on a little bit more support, just as it might come from releasing a little bit of effort. So it's again, it's always that kind of inquiry, that exploration. But bringing the hips back down, we're going to do another 2 of these kind of back bends with optional extras in each one. So next time you lift up, you're going to squeeze your right hip up towards your right shoulder. So just contracting, shortening the right side of the waist. Back to center and then switching sides. Left hip up towards left shoulder. If anything doesn't feel good, again, either miss it out, substitute it, make it smaller. You've got loads of options. Switching again. Maybe one more on each side, depending on how it feels. And coming down once again. Having a moment to rest. And when you're ready, you're going to take one more lift. So making sure the feet are planted in a comfortable position. This time as you lift the hips, you're going to carry the pelvis around in some slow circles, like a hula hooping action. So even at the bottom of the circle, we're not kind of letting go. There's still some effort, still some control. As you circle the hips, you might be aware of different parts of the body switching on or releasing or stretching, change direction. You might be aware of the weight shifting from one foot, one leg to the other. And again, when you're ready, gently coming back to center, bringing the hips down. Have a moment to rest there once again, to allow the spine to settle, to rest into the support of the mat beneath you. The next place you'll get to will be an all fours tabletop position. So if spine is feeling good, maybe you're going to hug the knees in. You want to create a C curve of the spine, so chin to chest, tummy in, tucking the tailbone under to rock up and down a few times. If that's not so comfortable, then making your way up any other way. So when you do get up to all fours, just bring the fingertips around so they point back towards your knees and your thighs. A little bit of prep for the wrists. So just easing the hips back towards the heels. Making sure the shoulders aren't up by the ears. So you want the neck nice and long. Turning the hands over, so back to the hands down, palms up towards the ceiling. Again, lightly pushing the floor away. Easing hips towards heels, keeping the neck long. Sitting back onto the heels, releasing the hands, giving them a little shake, and when you're ready, coming back to all fours and moving into your cat and cow. So whether you want to get straight into moving with breath, if you want to slow it down, entirely up to you. So maybe it's the in-breath that finds your arch, the sit bones lifted, the out-breath tucks the tailbone, moves you into that cat pose. Again, whether you're moving one movement for breath or taking a bit more time, it's totally your choice. But I would like you to bring a little bit of attention to the pelvis and see if you can initiate the movement from there. So you talked already about how if you change what's happening at your pelvis, it will affect what's happening at the thighs, and more importantly today, what's happening with the spine. So you might be able to notice that, starting your transition by adjusting the pelvis and feeling that effect sort of ripple through the spine. When you're ready, again coming back to stillness, taking it back into a child's pose with the toes tucked under. So take it into a baby wave. So the arms are reaching forwards, toes are tucked, hips are towards your heels. You're rounding the spine a la cat pose. As you push from the feet, shift the body forwards. As the shoulders move towards being stacked over the wrists, lifting the sit bones, little bend in the elbows as you ripple back. You're rounding, pressing the back of the body toward the ceiling as you shift forwards, lifting the sit bones, keeping the neck long as you ripple back to your child's pose. Might be happening again with one movement per breath. Might be taking a bit more time. And kind of waking up the spine. Noticing if there are parts that feel a bit stiff. When you're ready, you're going to make your way into a downward facing dog. Taking time in that down dog to check in, to create maybe a bit more ease, or maybe a bit more challenge if that's what you're after today. To make your down dog work for you this morning. And then from here, slowly lowering your knees down to the mat, but keep your hips lifted. So knees down, bum stacked above the knees. Moving into melting heart or puppy pose. The hands are walking forward as you soften the chest towards the floor. Again, a softening and melting as opposed to a forcing or a gripping. If possible, forehead might be on the mat, chin might be on the mat. Maybe a little addition, thinking of tractioning, dragging the tailbone up towards the ceiling and just lightly drawing the chest back towards the thigh. But then you're going to start to press down through the hands and ripple yourself all the way forward onto your belly. So starting by powering up the arms and then coming all the way through. So when you get there, just bring the arms across in front of you. You're going to lift your right leg, think of making it a little bit longer, and then put it down. Same thing on the left. Lifting, make sure the thigh leaves the mat if possible. A little bit longer, put it down, and again, right side and left side. And then planting the hands or the fingertips, maybe a bit wider than your shoulders. Again, you can play around with it, but the in-breath is going to bring you up into your cobra, and your out-breath is going to release the chest down. Again, if you want to take longer, if you want to pause, slow it down, you can do. So we want a little bit of support, switched on from the glutes. The legs are still quite active. Tops of the feet stay on the mat. Neck is long. You might be aware of a bit of effort in the back of the shoulders. And of course, the arms can help push the floor away, maybe help us get a little bit more into our sort of more full range of motion with the spine. but also want to make sure that we are switching on, creating strength and stability around the spine. So trying to reduce a little bit the push from the arms. When you're ready, you're going to make your way back once again, either into a downward facing dog, or if you want to take a moment just to kneel to allow the spine to sort of become a little more neutral before you move into your down dog, of course, take that option. All right, so from your downward facing dog, you're going to lift your right leg. Then give yourself a little bit of time there, maybe a breath or two, before you then step your right foot towards the top of your mat. Inside or outside of your right hand is up to you. But you're going to drop the back knee down, sweep the arms high, hands are going to find prayer position. The elbows bend so the thumbs are coming towards the back of the shoulders, lightly lifting chin away from chest. So pressing the head just gently back into the arms. Check out what's happening around the hips and the low back. Have you got the support that you want, that you need? You might want a little bit less. You might want to get in a little bit deeper, but making sure that we're not completely passive and just kind of dumping weight into the low back or dumping weight into that hip flexor. Either release into a hamstring stretch or a half split. So shifting the hips back, maybe bringing hands to thigh or hands to a wall, or maybe fingertips to the floor. Now you can choose to stay just in that kind of that fold, that stretch, or adding, I'm going to hold on to the wall, adding a little bit of rippling through the spine. So as you breathe in, perhaps, belly button draws in, the spine lifts, lengthens, reaches forwards, and as you breathe out, there's a softening, a releasing, a folding. Feeling a bit tight, then maybe as I am, a little bend in that right knee, a bit of grounding through the right heel. And then you're going to start to come forwards onto the sole of your right foot again. Find your lunge. This time you're going to tuck your back toes. We want power in both legs so that we can lift the back knee with a sense of ease. I can do that here, but I feel like it's stressful on my back hip. So if it's teeth in. If this is safe for you, maybe try making your lunge a little bit shorter or a little bit wider so you can push equally into both feet and lift that back knee. We're going to keep the back heel lifted, keep a little bend in the back knee as the arms rise up, palms turn forward, pull the elbows wide, cactus arms nice and strong across the back of the shoulders, and then from the hips drawing in, lifting up and back. So a little high release. Maybe it's more of a back bend if it's feeling good for you. Two legs are still active, so we're supporting the low back. And then when you're ready, hands come to the mat. You're going to step back to a down dog, and we're going to take our vinyasa variation for today. So from your down dog, your in-breath is going to bring you forwards to your plank any way you like, and the out-breath will bring you all the way down onto your belly, again, any way you like. In-breath is going to lift two legs, thighs away from the mat. Out-breath to release. In-breath lifts chest away from the mat, feet down. Out-breath to release. In-breath, everything away from the mat. You can have hands on or off the floor, little locust. Exhale to release, and then any way you want, back into a down dog. Keep breathing. Ace. And then once you're back in your down dog, left leg is going to lift. Get a little moment there before you then step your left foot toward the top of your mat. Drop the back knee down. Hands sweep high, they find prayer position, and you bend the elbows again, hands towards the back of the shoulders. Chin gently away from chest. Bit of support, that in and up action, which might be subtle, it might only be 5%. Again, checking in with what you need, what you would like this morning as well. Before shifting back into your hamstring stretch. Again, hands might be on the floor for you. You might stay in your fold, or perhaps add in that little bit of rippling, little bit of waving action. So the in-breath creates that little bit of lift and an extra length of the spine, and the out-breath softens you forwards. Again, when you're ready, coming back into your lunge, coming to the sole of the left foot, tucking the back toes under. Again, as you push into both feet, as you brace. If it feels easy to lift that back knee, great. If it doesn't, maybe make a little adjustment, shorter and wider might be good. So you can lift with a little bit more ease. Keep both legs strong as the arms rise up. Palms turn forward, take it into cactus arms. Imagine you're doing a pull down. Then again, from the hips, in, up, and back for your high release. Keeping the neck long, keeping the chest nice and open, keeping two legs strong. You might feel it even more in your back leg now. Make sure that back heel is lifted. Awesome. And then again, hands find the floor, stepping back to your downward facing dog. And again, vinyasa variation. So any way you like, the in-breath brings you forwards to your plank. Any way you like, the out-breath lowers you all the way down to the floor. Inhale to lift both legs. Exhale to release. Inhale to lift the chest. Exhale to release. Inhale, little locust, full body. Exhale to release, and making your way back into your down dog. From your down dog, either walking hands to feet or feet to hands, little forward fold. And always a bit of time for you to use that forward fold any way you want, whether it's more passive, more active. If it's not working for you, then coming up to standing a little bit sooner. But once you've had a bit of time there, you're ready to move on, then you'll make your way to standing. Nice. So we're going to take some rolls, some ripples, some up and downing of the spine. So if it makes you feel at all lightheaded, take a little breather, slow it down, whatever you want. And again, it doesn't have to be all the way to the floor, all the way back up again. See what your body is telling you. So feet will be about hip distance apart. And I'd like you to try and keep the legs a little or a lot bent all the time. So hopefully never having the legs straight. That's going to just kind of restrict our, just creates it, it makes it a little bit tighter to the back of the body. So a little bend of the knees. That's also going to mean that we're using muscular support from the thighs, the hamstrings, the glutes to support the spine, as opposed to just sitting into the knees, into the hips, into the low back. Anyway, we're going to start rolling down and rolling up. So chin is moving towards the chest. Maybe your hands can walk down the thighs if your low back is not so happy. And taking your time to release the weight of the head and let that draw you towards the floor. If anything, the knees are going to bend more. Once you find the bottom, wherever that is for you, you'll take a little moment there and then you'll roll it back up again. And it might be a big movement. It might be a small movement. So again, depending on the speed that's happening for you, maybe you'll do one more, maybe you'll do four more. And try and be really mindful that you're not just rushing to reach a forward fold. And the important part is we're trying to really picture, feel, articulate the spine. Your knees soft, but legs are strong. So we're not trying to put pressure on the low back at any point. We're trying to minimize the pressure on the low back. So the body hasn't got to focus on holding and supporting the low back. The support is coming from the legs, really, which again, hopefully then is going to give us a bit more freedom with the spine. But let's change it up. Next time you're up to standing, again, you're going to start with a bend in the knees. This time we're going to kind of swan dive down and ripple up. So bending the knees, pressing the hips backwards, chin is away from the chest on the way down. Release the back of the neck at the bottom, and then leading with the nose. So chin moves away from the chest, you're looking forward, looking up, pushing strong through the feet as you ripple up to standing. Rippling down, rippling up, bending the knees, pushing the hips back. Releasing the back of the neck at the bottom. And then again, leading with the head to come up. You might be more, I know I'm much more aware of my legs working harder in this variation. Let's put that together a couple of times. So you're going to ripple down. So again, bending the knees, pushing the hips back, rippling down, and then roll up. So pulling in the tummy, trying to send the tailbone down to the floor so that you can stack the vertebrae one on top of the other to roll up to standing. So rippling on the way down, and then rolling on the way up. Pulling the tummy and think about that cat shape of the spine. You might feel the knees press forwards to help enable that rolling up. So again, if we can find a kind of stable, secure place for the pelvis, then the spine will be able to uncurl a little more easily on top of that. You're making sure the knees stay soft, you're using that power in the legs on the way up and on the way down. Great stuff, guys. Next time you're upright, just take a little pause. And just a very brief revisit of this snaking of the spine. So again, the legs and the pelvis are quite secure, the low back is quite stable, and if it helps, again, coming back to this idea of a thread. Being pulled and being pulled, or just channeling your inner Shakira, you know, whatever you need, but try and keep the legs and the hips really, really still. Okay, all right. So let's come to the top of your mat if you're not there already. Take the arms all the way up towards the ceiling. When you're ready, moving into a forward fold, we're going to take that vinyasa variation. So stepping back to your down dog. And then moving with your breath, inhaling to come forwards, exhaling to come all the way down to your belly. The in-breath lifts your thighs. The out-breath to release. In-breath to lift the chest. Out-breath to release. Good. In-breath, locust, full body lifts with a sense of space at the low back. Exhale to release, then back into your down dog any way that you want. Once you're back in your down dog, your right leg is going to step towards the top of your mat, and you'll come up into a high lunge. Just a little moment there in your high lunge. And then the hands, the arms are going to reach forwards and down to the floor on the inside of your right foot. You're going to pivot 180 degrees to your left. Take as long as you want. So be walking the hands round, eventually pivoting the feet. You'll end up with warrior two legs on your left. All right, so take as much time as you want. Maybe have a bit of time in that wide-legged forward fold. But eventually your left toes will turn to the back of your mat. Your right toes will still be to the long edge, so 90 degrees. And you're going to rise up into a warrior two. Again, no rush if you're not there yet, don't worry. And then it's up to you. What do you want to add on to the top? Do you want to take it into a side angle, a reverse warrior, or do you just want to chill in your warrior two? And then from your warrior two variation, you're going to move into horse stance or goddess pose. So turning 90 degrees to your right. Maybe adjusting the feet so you feel stable, toes out, heels in, knees bent. Can we stabilize everything from the bottom of the ribs down and then come back to this snaking, or a hiccup, excuse me, snaking action. So the hips stay still. And you're just moving the rib cage. Great. Straighten the legs, take the arms up to the ceiling. You're going to pivot 90 degrees to your right. So you'll come back to face the top of your mat and you'll be in a high lunge. Back heel lifted, bending 2 knees. Interlace the hands behind you and you're going to move into a warrior 3. So interlace the hands, shoulders back, shifting your weight onto your right leg. And just noticing what's happening at the low back for you. So you might want to focus on closing the front of the body, finding a bit more support. You might want to encourage more of a back bend, lifting the back leg higher, lifting the chest higher. But that first question is, what is happening in my body? Work on that skill of proprioception. And once you know what's happening, then you can decide if you want to change it and explore how. You're going to release left foot to the top of the mat, take the arms up to the ceiling. From there into a forward fold, into a down dog, and through that vinyasa variation that we've been taking. So of course, if you're happy, go at your own pace. Otherwise, coming with me, inhaling to come forward and exhaling to come down onto your belly. Breathing in to lift the legs from the thighs. Exhaling to release. Breathing in to lift the chest. Exhaling to release. Breathing in for a little locust. Hands can be on the floor. Breathing out to release and making your way back into your down dog. I'm just going to spin myself around so I don't have my back to you. But once you're back in your downward facing dog, left leg will step towards the top of the mat. And again, you're rising up into a high lunge. Little moment in that high lunge, and then the hands are going to reach you forwards and down to the floor on the inside of your left foot. And slowly, slowly, you're pivoting 180 degrees towards the back of your mat, and you'll arrive eventually, in your own time, into a warrior 2 on the right leg. So right toes towards the back of your mat when you finally get there. Left toes towards the long edge, rising up into whatever variation you might want to take on this side. You might want to keep moving, that's fine as well. And then when you're ready from there, stretching both legs, 90-degree turn to your left as you find your horse stance or your goddess pose. Toes out, heels in, nice big bend in the knees. And again, can we stabilize from the ribs down and just ripple, snake from the spine. Again, it's helpful using that thread. So where is the movement starting from? What's leading, initiating the movement? And then stretching both legs, arms up to the ceiling, turning 90 degrees to your left. You should end up facing the front of your mat in a lunge with the left foot in front. Interlacing the hands behind you, moving into your warrior 3 when you're ready. And again, once you find that warrior 3, what's happening in my body? Do I want to change anything? Maybe I'm talking more to my legs, maybe I'm talking more to my spine, more back bend, more lengthening. Maybe you're just trying to breathe a little bit more calmly. Releasing right foot to the top of the mat, take the arms up to the ceiling, before moving into your forward fold again, into your downward facing dog, and through that vinyasa variation. Again, you've got the lower body lift, the chest lift, the full body lift. back into your down dog. Take a moment, either in your down dog or in a child's pose, or just having a little breather once you've completed that vinyasa. Just checking in once again with your body, with your spine. And then from wherever you are, however you'd like, you're going to make your way up to standing at the top of your mat. Okay. So once you get standing at the top of the mat, shift the weight onto your right leg, pick your left leg up, take your arms up to the ceiling. You're going to step your left foot back so you arrive in a high lunge position, back heel, back heel lifted and 2 knees bent. So maybe a slightly shorter lunge than you might usually take. Relax the arms, and we're going to take your ripple down and your roll up. So I'm going to start with my legs fairly straight. The first thing I'm going to do is bend them, send my hips back, ripple down towards the floor, keep the back heel high the whole time, push down through 2 feet, pull the tummy in, try to get tailbone toward the floor so it's a little bit easier for me to uncurve and roll up through the spine. Do it again, and again, and again, and again. So we really want to think strong legs, definitely using the power in that back leg. You should feel this in your quads, particularly in that left quad, I think. You should feel your glutes working, your abdominals as well. Again, if we can get the pelvis and the legs and the pelvis feeling quite strong, quite secure, which I know is easier said than done, then the spine will have a little bit more freedom because we won't be having to grip and worrying so much about falling over, basically. If you need to, you can hold on to something. Once you've had enough, you're just going to step the back foot forwards. So come to standing at the top of your mat, maybe give that leg a little bit of a shake. If you need to, maybe give the quad a little stretch before you switch sides. So again, when you're ready, that moment of balance, as the right leg lifts, a little step back, quite a short lunge, landing on the ball of the back foot, so you're controlling that landing, relaxing the arms, and then again, rippling down and rolling up. The pelvis is doing a bit of a cat-cow, which actually I can feel much more clearly if I make my movements smaller. And back leg is super active, that heel is staying lifted. That means that back leg is really working quite hard. Nice, and again, when you've had enough, stepping the back foot forwards. Give the leg a little shake, maybe give the quad a stretch. And then coming to stand, feet's about hip distance apart, little bend in the knees. Have a moment just to release, to move the neck, maybe some little circles, maybe ear to shoulder, ear to shoulder. Bringing the head back to stillness, shifting down to the rib cage. We've done quite a lot of snaking, so let's take it into our circles. And if you can, keep the knees a little bit soft. A few times one way, a few times the other. Trying to keep the hips quite still, not rigid, but just not too much hula hula happening there. But in fact, actually, as you finish those chest circles, let's take it into some hip circles. So you might want to take the feet to a slightly different position as you circle the pelvis, and hopefully you'll move through those cat and those cow positions with the pelvis. A few times one way, a few times the other. and then just shaking it out. Taking a few little spirals, so rolling one shoulder back and then rolling the other shoulder back. So you are twisting, rotating, looking back over the shoulders. Just again, moving the spine in a slightly different way. Before you come back to stillness, making your way to the top of your mat again if you're not already there. Bring the legs in together to touch. Rise high onto the balls of the feet and squeezing everything in towards the midline, so ankles in. Ooh. Ankles, knees, thighs, everything. Keep the heels high as you start to bend the knees. You're going to lower your bum slowly as you comfortably is not the right word, slowly as you feel you can. Lower your bum into your heels. Keep lifting the heels, try and keep the body straight. Keep squeezing in, squeezing in, squeezing in. Lift the heels higher. And when you get to the bottom, you're going to roll yourself down as gently as you can to lie on your back. Oh, Lord. Which might not be very gentle at all. When you get down there, hug the right knee into your chest, lengthen your left leg out along the floor. Gently switching sides. Left knee in, right leg long. Switch again, this time taking it into a twist. So the right knee is in, the left leg is strong. Draw the right leg across the body, extending the right arm out to the side or arranging it however you've got space. Good, coming back to center, switching sides. Left knee in, and taking it across the body into your twist. And as ever, as you come back to center, before you get into your Shavasana, is there anything else that you want, that you need? A forward fold, an inversion, a back bend, or are you just ready for that stillness? Have a little moment, just a minute or so for yourself. And as long as you're mindful of how things are feeling, you're moving with a little bit of care, and hopefully you'll always be safe, sensible, whatever that word is. When you are ready, it's time to make your way into a position that feels comfortable, that feels supportive. If your low back is giving you any kind of feedback, if it's getting a bit grumbly, then definitely bend your knees, plant your feet. That's going to give maximum support to the low back. Maybe just noticing the sensations that might be present, tuning into maybe some of the subtleties before releasing that effort, that awareness, that focus. As you surrender into your Shavasana. And starting when you're ready to deepen your breath, to bring a bit of movement back into your body, to become perhaps more aware of your surroundings once more. Gradually starting to ease your way up to a seat, but as always, there is no rush. If you want to stay lying down for another few minutes, please go ahead and do that. When you do find your seat, again, we're looking for a comfortable position, one that requires minimal effort. The eyes rest closed. Do release any last little bits of effort or tension that we don't really need. Do check in with our spine, with our body, our energy levels, our mood. As always, if there's something useful, something interesting, seeing if you can thread that through. So can we start to draw aspects of our practice through into other parts of our life, perhaps, instead of allowing the rest of our life to kind of impact or bombard us during our practice. So thank you very much, guys. I hope everything is feeling all right. Thanks, as always, for getting up on a Saturday and joining me. I do really appreciate it, so thank you. I hope you have a lovely weekend, despite the rain and the lockdown, I mean. Anyway, have a great week, and hopefully I'll see you for more spinal noodling next time.